Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. As you guys can see, the Corvette is behind me here in the third bay, and today we're going to fix all of the issues that we ran into on the dyno. Well, everything except for one. That one is going to be the oil cooler. I need to get the car on the lift for that. It's running just fine the way it is. You know, there's no major oil leaks, so we will fix that at a later date. We'll let you know what's going on with that. But the two things that we needed to fix before we get to that are, one is the car is basically running for 5 minutes after we turn the car off. I've timed it 3 times. I've turned off various accessories that we have. You guys can see it, this wiring is a nightmare, but we unplugged the intercooler pump, we unplugged the cooling fans, we unplugged the DRLs. The L shape here, these are the DRLs for the Morimotos, and those require a switched 12-volt source. I unplugged every one of those accessories one at a time to see, like, okay, is it this? Is it that? Is it something else? And come to find out, 2 problems with this. One, we miswired it. I'll show you that in a second. And the second is setting inside of HV tuners that I found. So for the first problem, this is actually going to be very simple. You guys will see a wiring diagram here. You'll see in the right-hand side of the screen, I highlighted the orange wire. That is the wire that we terminated when we installed the alternator controller. I reached out to Andrew Maxwell, the owner of that company, and I said, hey, the alternator worked fine without issue, but the problem is something is causing the car to run for 5 more minutes, all the accessories, everything, basically everything powered by this fuse box for an additional 5 minutes. Kind of reached out to him. He sent me some wiring diagrams. I sent him some wiring diagrams, and we basically both found out that the red and white wire, the alternator sense wire, actually, you'll see that here, this red and white wire, it almost looks brown, but it is red and white. That actually could do one of 2 things. You can terminate it like I had it, or you can run it to a junction box. So you can run it to the fuse box, you can run it to the alternator, because that wire actually has 12 volts going through it at all times. And, you know, I'm sure it would have been fine if I just terminated it, left it back in the harness, but since we've got everything torn apart anyway, we might as well have that go to one of those battery cables. So yeah, that's basically the first fix, but the second part of that is there's this orange wire. This, we're gonna re-terminate that the way it was, fold that over, put some heat shrink tubing on it, and call it a day. That wire isn't gonna be used in our alternator setup, and we never had alternator problems. Just to clarify, the problem that we had was that the car wouldn't shut off. Now we're kind of leading to the resolution of the electrical, and that is in HV tuners. I'll show you a screenshot here of the fan controller, and what you guys will see on the screen is that I have it set for 30 seconds. Whenever I got one of the tunes to start the car, the startup tune, it was set to 300 seconds. Well, what does 300 seconds equal? That equals 5 minutes. So when you have the car set for 300 seconds, the whole fuse box is powered up. And if you have any accessories tied to your fuse box, like we do, we've got the DRLs, the intercooler pump, the cooling fans, this will provide power to all of those accessories for that set time. Change that to 30 seconds. I flashed it, and guess what, guys? Everything magically shut off right at 30 seconds. So thought it was something I had done, but no, ends up being a setting in HV tuners. I'm not going to blame anyone on this. It's a small thing to miss, and trust me, when you're in HV tuners, there are literally hundreds, if not thousands of fields that you can go in there and update. So one little box had one configuration just wrong, and you know, it is what it is. All right, guys, we have cleaned up this wiring 100%. I terminated that orange wire like we showed you earlier. That red and white wire, we ran through the same harness that had our alternator wire running through it. And I just split off a terminal to that red-white wire that's going to the alternator. The alternator plug, that's plugged in, we're good there. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Obviously, this stuff right here is a mess, but that is for another day. And this was just the first step. First was changing the ECM setting. You guys saw the screenshot of that. And the second was adding this wire, you know, running this wire properly, making sure everything's good to go. So we are now 100% done fixing the electrical charging system. Now, the next issue that we had was the cooling system. As I mentioned in the previous video, the dyno video, that the car overheated. Well, it overheated because I only had one cooling fan running, and that was because we had a bunch of electrical charging issues with that alternator stuff. So one thing I noticed when the car overheated was the coolant did not come out of the cap, this area on the Moroso tank. It actually came out over there by the coolant tank for the supercharger. So I think what had happened was I'd put the radiator cap on, and guys, if you don't get this GM cap on this Moroso tank just right, it actually won't thread all the way down. So I think what happened was, I think this was not threaded all the way down, and with it not threaded all the way down, the coolant didn't have the opportunity to come through the cap, through these holes. And if you guys see, there's a hole right there on the inner part of the lip here. I think that coolant didn't have a path to escape, because there is a tube running through the tank out the bottom, and it should have pissed out the driver's side front wheel. So what we're gonna do, I've got 2 gallons of antifreeze, I've got a fill tank, and basically what we're gonna do is basically just fill this coolant up as much as we can until the car is running properly. It, is up to temperature, the thermostat opens and all that. As we've added a bunch of coolant, I've let this run for probably close to 20 minutes. You guys can see the coolant temp is at 190, so this thing's good to go, and I think we're ready to actually go get the car inspected. Now, I wanted to show you turning off the car. You guys could hear the fans run. Those will turn off in about 30 seconds, so. So yeah, the fans, you guys can see the MSD relay over there. That should all cut out very shortly. The DRLs are on, you guys just saw. So you see the MSD no longer has power, the DRLs are no longer on, and the cooling fan turned off. So guys, I think we have fixed this. So yeah, that's pretty much gonna be it. So if you guys like this video, hit that like button. If you guys want to see more Corvette updates, hit that subscribe button, turn on your bell notifications. If you guys want to help support the channel, check out all the links down below. Try to include some links for the tools that we used for the wiring, and maybe some coolant, whatever. So check out those links. And also make sure you check out our website, BonecrrusherSS.com. Any support you guys can give there goes right back into the channel, the Corvette, the shop, and the truck. So thanks guys. Have a great one.